Well, Larry Goldberg, I never cease to be amazed. You're just a surprise a minute wearing your SpaceX shirt there. Um,
Well,
uh,
the launch is upcoming
I
10th of
know, no,
10th of January. I'm very excited. I'm going to be there. A lot of friends coming. I'll see, some very good friends I haven't seen for a very long time. I'm going to see some new friends. The community around those launches of the SpaceX and the Tesla and all those people, it's fantastic.
but somehow between Friday and today, it's only been 3 days since I last had a conversation with you. You've ended up making another car purchase. Talk to me.
Yeah, I bought two Model 3s in the last week.
Well, I knew you bought the first one, but I didn't know
Yeah, so
you
this is
knew
the
you had.
second one. I bought the second one this morning. I woke up yesterday and I thought, I've got this Model X. I'm I'm torn about whether to sell it or not to sell it because I've got my Cybertruck, which, I kept the Model X all this time thinking, well, the Cybertruck may not be, a daily driver. It may not be something for the long trips. But now I've learned that the Model X, the Cybertruck does everything and does it perfectly. It's just a great car. It's a great truck. It's a great around the town car, but it's also a great road trip car.
So I know you needed a car that you could go out in that every person on the journey wasn't going to want to engage socially with you.
No, I mean everybody in that car. I mean, like driving that Cybertruck, the the cabin is like a cocoon. The only thing you have is the sort of that whine from the electric motors, which is so nice to hear. But other than that, it's silent. It's beautiful. No, I had the Model X.
Yep.
The Model X is a couple of years old. I got the refresh Model X pretty early in the cycle. It is a AI3. I thought I'm going to sell it, but on the other hand, I've got it and it's got FSD on it. And if it, Robotaxi's coming.
Yes.
And I thought, well, it'd be useful to keep it and, experiment, put it out there, see what it does, get that kind of intelligence, get that,
Huh?
intel. And then I thought, wait a minute. If I'm going to do that, the X is not the ideal car to be doing that. The Model 3 is the best car to do that. And we'd bought my wife the Model 3. We'd updated her Model 3 just a week or so ago, and it's just such a beautiful car. So, I went online. There was one Model 3 left in Raleigh. One.
When?
So I snagged it. And I set the appointment for this morning, went in, changed the car out, got my Model 3. This is a long range model. This is a four-wheel drive Model 3,
Huh?
two motor Model 3. I have to tell you, Randy, driving that car is a dream. It is a dream. And 13.2.2 in that car is like faultless. I mean, once they get, the parking, driving into the final parking destination, just that little end piece, it's done. Because I drove all day yesterday, all day today. No, all day today. I just in the morning, I went to fetch it and then I drove around and then I went back on a long trip this afternoon. Not one intervention, not even close to an intervention. Just everything perfect.
So, will you put this Model 3 then out? You'll use this as your experiment then when the time comes, when the right.
Yeah, yeah. This car is so close to autonomy now that I see the opportunity coming very shortly. I don't know when they'll roll it out in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, but if they start rolling it out mid of next year, rolling out Robotaxi mid of next year, then I'm going to lobby to get this car out there.
It sounds great. Well, now you've got two Model 3s. And,
Yep.
and of course, you know that if I was buying, the Model 3 would be what I would want. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't have the performance, Larry. That's not going to be the car you need.
Yeah, I was tempted to go for the performance, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's kind of crazy. So no, I I'm very comfortable with this Model 3. And as a matter of fact, I may take it down to SpaceX
Oh,
this
yeah.
next week
Yeah.
on the 10th because I have the appointment to take my Cybertruck in to get the wheel covers on, and there are a few recalls that they want to do on it. So I'll probably take it in just before I leave for Boca Chica. And so I may take this Model 3 down.
Well, Larry, I think that the whole thing about Robotaxi is what people are most focused on.
Yeah.
I think that if Optimus gets revealed by the end of the year, that will become the biggest story of the year. But that's still a big if, whereas it seems much more likely that unsupervised and Robotaxi is coming within the next 12 months. So I was a little shocked that nobody has done the poll that I did the other day.
Mm.
It's gotten a ton of votes yet. And, the people that follow me on X are not going to be the average person in America, maybe not even the average Tesla driver. But I thought it would be fun to do this poll anyway. So here's how I worded it. I've had almost universally good rides in ride-hailing vehicles and cabs in the United States. Other countries, not so much. I had some scary, very scary rides in other countries. But in the United States, I would say almost 100%. The cabs, ride hailing, doesn't matter. Very good rides. However, I'd much rather dispense with the driver, and I would
Oh, yeah.
pay more, I would pay more for no driver. Okay. So I ran the poll. So the first was preferred driver. What do you think the percent was that would prefer to have a driver?
I don't so where are we? I mean, how are the
So
numbers running?
I'm sorry. So I'm just it's running now, but I just ask it. How many people? What percent? In other words, how many people would say
Yeah,
I
I
really
mean,
would prefer to have a
yeah,
driver?
I saw the poll. I
Yeah.
actually took the poll.
Oh, you did. Okay. So the people that said that they would prefer to have the driver turned out to be less than 10%, 9.4%. Then there was those who prefer no driver. That was 59.4%. And then there was the ones that would pay more to not have a driver. That was 28.1%.
Wow, that's a big number. But I mean, was it a large sample, or have you?
At the time, I think I only had 120 votes. I haven't looked at it
Yeah,
recently.
I'll repost it and see if we can get more
Okay.
votes.
All right. But I thought that was hilarious that 28% said they would pay more to have no driver. What about you? Would you pay more to have no driver?
I think I would definitely choose it over a driven car. If that, how Uber ranks the quality of the cars and
Right.
differentiates the pricing. We found ourselves, I was with Brad Ferguson in Austin the other day, and we found ourselves hiring the higher cost,
No.
more luxury vehicle just because we'd had significantly poor experience a little bit earlier in the day with one or two rides.
No.
And I think I would pay more. I think they would actually put it in the hierarchy of demand.
Right.
They'd put it further to the top in terms of pricing. I think I would definitely pay more. Um, it's very clear that it, look, I'm not sure I would pay more for a Waymo vehicle.
Right.
I would definitely pay more for the ride I was getting today in the Tesla vehicle.
Right. With no driver. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so smooth. It is so effortless. It's so human-like. It's like a really good human driver.
Yeah. So um, here's a couple of questions I have for you. Do you think that unsupervised will dramatically increase the sales of all vehicles, all Tesla vehicles, and result in a supply constrained situation again?
Yes.
And okay,
Depends on how they price it.
okay, all right, okay.
If
So
they go back to, value pricing and they price it very high, then the answer is no. Anything above $12,000, $15,000, and the answer is no.
okay,
And it depends on whether they have a lower cost vehicle that they put it onto. So right now, if you look at the price of the three, and if you add $15,000 to it, it becomes marginal. I'm not sure people would pay for that. And
yeah.
then if they continue charging $300 a month, I'm certain the take up will be terrific and it'll add significantly to the demand of the vehicle.
All right. Well, that was going to be my second question. Do you believe that the uptake, what do you, if they keep the price reasonable? You may know that I have suggested that they'll end up having two classifications of purchase or subscriptions, whether you're using it for personal use or whether you're using it for ride hail. So if it's just for your personal use and they keep it at $100 a month or keep it at $8,000, what kind of uptake do you think will happen once everybody basically when they get it and it's comfortable?
Well, on your basis of pricing, I think the uptake would be very significant for FSD, for personal use, because that's a very, very low price. 8,000 or $200 a month. Is it 100 or $200 a month?
I don't care. You can pick your
Yeah.
word. Yeah.
But actually, I don't think that's how they'll price it. I think that the way Tesla will get their share of the profit is by taking a higher lick on the per mile charge.
Right, right.
So I don't think they'll differentiate the price of FSD to the buyer. I think they'll make their margin on FSD by their percentage of the revenue that they earn.
Right. So you're saying though that they would charge, let's say that I'm a housewife, I want to buy the thing for my own use, never going to put it out to Robotaxi, but they're going to charge, how much do you think they're going to charge to buy FSD?
Eight to $10,000,
Oh,
maybe
so you think it'll be the
10,000.
same? You think so you think the commercial user who plans to use it for a taxi will also only pay 8 to 10,000 for the,
Yeah, because the taxi use will be through the Tesla app.
right?
That's the only way they'll get insurance. And then the Tesla app is how Tesla will make its money.
Okay, okay. So no differentiation on the other.
That's
Uh,
what I'm saying.
okay, all right. And then what do you think once Elon makes the announcement, however he
Hmm.
does it, I expect a big splash that it is unsupervised. What do you think that impacts the stock?
I think the early days will be in the 500 range, 500 plus or minus
Total,
until, pardon?
total 500. It'll stay around 500.
Share price will be in the 500 range
Still in the 500 range, even
until they start showing revenue, and then there'll be a massive shift in the price into the high,
oh,
up to the $1,000 range.
okay, so you think it will be not until after so if it's two separate events, which what do you call it? Unsupervised being one event, and maybe it's 2 weeks later, or a month later, they do Robotaxi, or do you think it'll be on the same day?
I think the announcement of, that they'll accept liability, FSD's full feature complete, and they will accept liability on it. That announcement will be the beginning of the launch
Um,
of the first test in, I don't know, Palo Alto or Austin or both.
Do you think it'll just be a 1 day event for everything? Okay,
Yeah, I think once they accept liability, I don't see why they wouldn't start the service. I mean,
immediately.
I know that they're running the service right now.
Right, right.
Um, we've been told they're
That's
running the service right now. They've got a test driver in there. They're doing supervision. Maybe that's how they start in Palo Alto. Um, who knows? They may start that in San Francisco as well. Um, but frankly, I don't think we're very far away from that moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. But you don't think that when that announcement, that day that you're talking about is one day, I still think it might be two different announcements, but let's say it's all on one day. You don't think the stock goes up $100 that day?
Well, it is about $100. We're in the 400, low
Oh, I see.
400s right now. I'm talking about the low 500s. That is $100.
Okay, so you're looking at about $100. Okay, all right. And then more, like you're saying, maybe towards 800 or 1,000 as
Once we get proof points and we start seeing real revenue and the company is prepared to talk to the kind of revenue and profits that it sees upcoming,
right.
it's really hard to tell where that stock goes to.
Okay, all right. Um, then okay, you and I talked a little bit about this because of a thread on your X post today. People can go look at it if they want to. We're not going to get into the details of it. Do you expect regulations to get in the way of robotaxi in the US, in Asia, in Europe? What are you thinking at this point?
I think the US is a slam dunk for us now, given the last election, given the route towards FSD, a route towards sort of a national policy. I think, though, that Europe, I reposted 𝐂𝐦𝐚𝐲𝐝's minutes of the last or the earlier this year, the UN governing body on this subject. But apparently, since that date, some really negative stuff has happened. And so Europe seems to be, or UN seems to have been dragged back into the mire of bureaucracy. So Europe is a sore point. But as far as the Far East is concerned, I mean, they're going to take China's lead, and China's barreling ahead with FSD, with autonomy, with ride hail. And so they're moving very rapidly. And I think, SpaceX is going to be part of that. Sorry, Tesla is going to be part of that. I'm hoping Tesla will be part of that. So I think outside of Europe, we'll see great progress, but Europe, I don't hold out a lot of hope.
Uh, yeah, and of course, we don't know the details of that to know what's really holding them up, to even know whether if China and US are doing it and it's successful, that even that would be enough to get them on board, huh?
You'd think it would be. You'd think it would be, but Europe's, there's going to be elections
Yeah,
in Germany. The German
Germany,
elections are
France,
upcoming.
England. Yeah,
France is going to have to follow suit. I think the British government is going to be in trouble. So, France is, Europe is just an unknown quantity at this point, how it's all going to shake out. I mean, maybe Europe will go through the same revolution we've gone through. And it's a revolution of thought. It's not like the right wing is
yeah,
taking over from the left wing. We've got crazies on both ends of both spectrums, but it's quite clear that Elon has won this, at least the opening shots of this battle. And I should add, President Trump,
yes.
has led the way. And this is a different President Trump from 2016. I wrote my great mea culpa after the first assassination attempt, saying, I made a mistake about Trump. I made a mistake, and I was misled by the sort of national press and all that I'd read about him. And not only was I misled, but he's also matured enormously. Wow. From a political perspective and from just a human perspective, he seems to have grown in stature enormously. So anyway, I admitted after I saw how he handled that assassination attempt, and my disgust over, this whole lawfare thing. I really changed sides. I moved from a never Trumper to a full support of Trump. And then on my judgment of whether Elon should be involved in this stuff, I went on 𝐑𝐚𝐬𝐽's channel and said, I didn't think it was a great idea for Elon to be mixed up in politics. This was some time ago, and Elon said that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and he was right. As always, if you second guess Elon, you're going to end up, being red of face and embarrassed. And so I was embarrassed. I was wrong. He was right.
Yeah. So all of that, like you say, it'll be interesting to see what happens now with Europe, with all these elections coming up. We can see a big change, or who knows if it. I put up a post the other day. I've believed, Larry, since I was a young man, a very young man, 20s, that most people in the world would rather be led by dictators, benevolent dictators, but they'd rather know that their paycheck was going to be there on time and know that, as they said during the Third Reich, that the trains would run on time. They would rather have a benevolent dictator and lose a few freedoms than have a more risky, more chaotic government, even if that meant more freedom. Maybe we'll see whether the Europeans are more inclined to take on a little more risk in favor of getting more freedom.
There was a time in our history where we didn't have to give up any freedoms for free speech. In the 60s, people marched in the streets calling the president all kinds of names, and it was fine. I mean, everybody was fine. And, the country really went through a rough time, but at the end of the day, we kind of sorted it out. So I don't necessarily align with what you're saying. I think that people do want free speech. And where it really hurts is because when you don't have free speech, then things happen that you don't have control over, and then it starts affecting you as a group and individually. And then you realize too late that, wow, if we'd had, so I'm not sure I aligned with you. And, I traveled in the communist world during the communist era. Nobody was happy with that. Nobody, other than those people in power.
Yeah.
And that's what I see here. We have these woke ideologues in control of the academy. We have these woke ideologues in control of the bureaucracy. We have these woke ideologues in control of many court districts. We have them in control of our children's education. And I would say that people are, a lot of people are very unhappy about that.
Yeah, I suppose that my attitude about people not caring as much, and I meant about freedom in general, not just free speech, but free speech is kind of the founding
Bedrock.
block
It's a
of all
bedrock.
freedoms. It's kind of if you don't have freedom of speech, what good are the rest of the freedoms? But as you look around and you have somebody whose teachers are, and you know that the teachers are acting a certain way in the classroom, but you don't do anything about it. You're not willing to raise your voice. You're not willing to use your free speech to go to board meetings, to elect people that will change it, et cetera, et cetera. This is what I've seen my whole life. It's a very small fraction in my experience of the people that are willing to take any risk at all in order to make sure that their freedoms are maintained.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I'm such a firm believer in these freedoms.
Yeah.
such a firm believer that I find it difficult to sense how people could be happy, in
Happy
this.
is one thing, Larry, but willing to risk their reputation, willing to risk being told no, being willing to risk being put down, shoved down, canceled. Showing up at a board meeting is not a big deal, but it is a big deal for some people to show up at a board meeting and hold their hand up and speak their mind because they're afraid that they'll be shouted down or made to look.
But then you're arguing against yourself because you said most people would be happy to submit to a benevolent dictator.
Oh, so maybe the word happy was your problem. That might have been my bad choice of words there.
They're more comfortable, is what you're saying.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Maybe
Well, this election certainly didn't show that.
that's right. The America is a little different, but then the rest of the world will see whether the Europeans follow suit as per your hope.
I think the Europeans are going to vote out this. So I think the governments of Britain, France, and Germany in inverse order are going to be overthrown.
Yeah.
Are going to be voted. They're not going to be overthrown. They're going to be voted out.
Yes. So Larry, I usually do this first, but I'm going to just all combine it here. The market took another dusting today. Tesla took another dusting today, was actually down more than its beta today, although at certain points it was not. Any thoughts about the market action today? What are you thinking in general about the market action? And if
People
you,
are hedging against the delivery numbers.
okay, this is specific to Tesla. You think they are hedging against the delivery numbers?
Yeah, look, the market in general is down, but Tesla's down further than its beta because of
Okay.
the hedging. This is everybody positioning themselves as I used to, and I gave up doing that. I mean, it's quite profitable, but in the grand scheme of things, wasn't that profitable, and I just didn't like it. Anyway, the point is the market in general ran way ahead of itself out of the exuberance, emerging out of the election. It's kind of backtracked a little bit, but I think that it's got a way to run yet because, the numbers I'm seeing, there's still pretty damn good profits coming out of these companies in the coming quarter. On Tesla itself, though, as I've said, there's risk.
Until Thursday.
Well, there's Thursday and then there's,
But there's
the earnings. So this is that
right.
period where it's trying to find a level and it's going to go up and down and up and down, up and down.
So, do you think that the market will be happy with the 10% fallback, or do you think the market might go ahead and take another 10 before it starts its next leg?
I think that the Tesla stock price is going to be under pressure until the delivery production and delivery numbers are out, and then when they do come out, I think a lot depends on what they are. If they're higher than 505,000, the market will go sideways. If they're lower than 505,000, the market could go down. If they're a lot lower than 505,000, the market could go down even further, which is kind of against the grain because you'd think that a large proportion of this market movement is because they perceive the opportunity with full self-driving and the opportunity with Robotaxi. And so the deliveries are less important.
Right.
But there's always those people who are buying it because they think it's a good motor car company.
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about the general market. So right now, the Dow, I didn't look at the S&P, I just didn't happen to. I'm guessing it's around the same, are down about 5%. Do
Yeah.
you think we go down another 5 and then pop? Or do you think we go down and try for a 20% drop before we go up?
Well, I think with a fair degree of certainty, we know that the market will either go up or down. which is about as good a projection as I've ever given you.
All right. Well, I think I would have, 3 months ago, I would have said that we needed a full 20% sell off before
Right.
the
Yeah.
next leg. But right now, I think there's a lot of optimism. I think there's a lot of underlying optimism. But I do think, like you said, we were out over our skis, needed to have a little bit of a sell off before we could really take the next leg. So I would be surprised if we don't get the next 5%, but I've been surprised so many times the last 90 days about my projection about this drop that I guess I might be surprised again. We've got Larry, specifically, the Dow dropped 0.97% today, or 418 points, although it was down significantly more than that at one point. I think it was pushing 700, wasn't it?
I didn't follow it.
NASDAQ down 235, S&P down 63, and Tesla down 14, finishing the day at 417.41. And the after hours, another $3.23 to almost exactly, look at that, $414.10. That would be the old intraday high. What a surprise that it would hit and stop at such a place, Larry. Anyway, that's where it's sitting now in the after hours. I wouldn't be surprised no matter what happens tomorrow, because during this period between Christmas and New Year's, with all the light trading, it's such a it's such a guess. Well, it's always a guess, but even more of a guess.
Yeah.
Bonds, though, Larry, this is a good day. Did you buy any bonds this morning?
I did not.
Didn't buy any bonds. Well, it turns out that the 10, oh, didn't end up as good as it started. Oh, wait, is this no, this is not the pre-market. All right, so the bonds had been down. I'm sorry, the yields had been down 8 basis points earlier, but they only ended up down 1.2.
Wow.
Ooh, so yeah,
Going
it,
nowhere.
it ain't over yet. Yeah, and we've got oil basically flat, 12 cents up today. No real action there. Natural gas also had been up 20%, but ended up down 1.68. It is being buffed 20%, Larry. That's a huge jump, and then to correct. Now, I'm thinking there's at least a slight possibility that there was an error on that. I haven't had a chance to look it up, but I mean, 20%, that would be kind of crazy.
Doesn't seem. Well, silver is a very thin market, so it could happen.
All right, we've got gold barely changed today, 26.18. Copper, almost unchanged. Silver, just under 30 bucks. So not a lot of movement there. Bitcoin ended up down. It had been down, it had been up, it had been down, it had been up. It ended up, well, not ended up. It is right now at 92,335. So again, not a lot of action, although that, Larry, in my little game, puts it into the a new range. So there's like a range from 94 to like 100 to the all-time high, and that broke through that 94. So as I scheme it out, it looks to me like it's broken a little bit below that.
Yeah. So what was the so at 93 we retraced back to I suppose September, October. Yeah.
Is it 80, 85 maybe, 84, 85, 94 to 80, 84 to 94, something around there.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's more than possible we've got it further way down. You know, Bitcoin, if you look at the chart for Bitcoin, it's very, very significant, these excursions, you know.
Oh, yes, yes, 75 down and then 125% up.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, and the futures on the equities I mean, they're a little more active tonight than they usually are. The Dow down 37 or 0.09, S&P down 11 or 0.20, and the Nasdaq down 59 or 0.28. So they showing similar to Tesla that it's continuing to go into the red. I claimed this morning, Larry, that I had never known that the Santa Claus rally was called that because everything is red. every single thing was red. No, it's not. That's not the reason.
I I don't think so. Santa Claus is supposed to bring gifts, not to bring coal.
Okay. Well, any remaining words of wisdom for you to share tonight?
Don't borrow money against stocks.
That's your that's your main theme. That's
I mean, the amount of damage that that's done to so many friends, it's incredible. And somebody was talking about taking quote, a small loan against their stocks because of some expenditure they want. And, I'll never forget a really big holder of Tesla bought himself a house on, some margin or a loan or whatever against his Tesla stock. And he had, eight figures, fairly moderate eight figures, and bought a $4 or $5 million house or whatever. And on margin. I said, well,
yeah,
it's such a small margin. It's less than 15%, I think it was.
yeah.
That house ended up being sold.
Wow. Holy cow.
Now, fortunately, I think he's done fine because he sold that house and, held on to the stock and so on. But
That's good.
and it's recovered. But, it looks 10% of your, if you take 10% of your position, you think that's safe territory. Well, when that 10% suddenly looms as 40%
Yeah,
and
yeah,
50%, you
yeah.
don't sleep that well at nights.
Right, right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's
That's your there you are. I asked for wisdom. You provided me with wisdom. What more could I ask than that, Larry?
yeah. And I mean, I just keep repeating the refrain because you'd be amazed at how people get tempted. Stock's gone up 100% this year, at least, right?
Oh, over, yeah. Well, no, for the year,
Yeah, it
it's
was like 100 something.
maybe so. Yeah, I can't remember now.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
So you think people would be grateful and saying, this is great. But I see people saying, well, I can add if bid, and I just have to go into a little bit of margin. Don't.
So I know, Larry, I should ask you if you have, I won't see you till after New Year's. Do you have any New Year's resolutions that you want to share?
Yeah, I got to stop buying Tesla Model 3s. New Year's resolution, stay with the program, guys. This is not investment advice, but I am going to stay with, accumulating and, Tesla stock. It's a great investment, I think. I mean, we are being given an opportunity of a lifetime, and I just think that it's so great. So everybody needs to do their own research, but New Year is a great time to be accumulating stock. The stock's going to fluctuate a lot in the early part of next year.
Yeah,
And so a lot of opportunities and you don't have to buy on the dip. All you have to do is dollar cost average, Anyway,
yeah,
that's
Larry, I've said it about 100 times. I guess I'll probably say it 100 more times. I've been playing the market like you. I've been paying attention to the
yeah.
economy and to the markets since I was a late teen.
Yeah.
And there's nothing even like Robotaxi that has ever happened in terms of a product, in terms of the potential volume, the total volume, the total margin, the total amount of profit that's possible. But then Optimus, it's not even a close call. And so the optionality, just the optionality of saying, like the old, uh, yeah, that horse is got a 90% chance of winning. Well, in this particular chance, it's about a 98% chance of winning. What are you willing to bet on a horse that's got a 98% chance of winning?
I'm not sure it's 98%, but it's a pretty high chance. And look, you know, Elon has the way of a way of making, you know, making ponies out of horse manure. I mean, he's just done he's such a great product person. He's such a great manager. He's such a great visionary. How can you go wrong?
I know, it's true. Absolutely true. Larry, Happy New Year. Can't wait to see you on Friday. And until then, to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.